Hello guys. So today we are going to discuss about S3, that is simple storage service, and this is the introduction to S3. And S3 is one of the first services provided by AWS and is a big topic in solutions architect examination and other exams also. So today we are going to discuss about S3, that is simple storage service. So S3 is an object storage service used to store objects. Now, what are objects? Object can be like your PDF file, your Word file, your MP3 file, your MP4 file, your FLV file, okay, and your doc file, your Word file, Excel file. So these objects which are static in nature, those are called as objects. So it's object storage service used to store objects, and it offers industry leading scalability, data availability, security, and performance. So we'll be discussing about this later in detail. All the customers, whether of any size, whether it's a big scale company or it's a small or it's a medium scale company, can use it to store and protect any amount of data for a range of use cases such as websites, mobile applications, backup and restore, archive, etc. And it's very easy to use. It has a simple web services interface, and it's used to store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere on the web. So these are the basics of S3. S3 is very safe place to store your files, and as we have discussed earlier, it's an object storage service. So it's not used for installing any operating system. It can only keep static files like your MP3 files or MP4 files or images or static content of any website. So we can use only for static storage. And it's, as we discussed earlier, that it's an object based storage, and the files which are stored in this can be of any size from 0 bytes to 5 terabytes. However, there is no limit on storing number of files, but as the amount of files you store on this S3, the price and the amount will increase for that. So that's not free. Files are stored in S3. Files are stored in buckets. So bucket is kind of folder in the cloud. So in S3, you'll have to create one folder or a bucket, and that inside that folder, inside that bucket, you can upload any number of files. So S3 is simple storage service, and it has buckets to store the data inside it. And each bucket has its universal namespace. That is, each bucket has a particular unique name which is unique throughout the AWS environment. So suppose I create a bucket in my in S3 in using my console with the name of Technopulse, then there no one else can create that name, that bucket with the same name of Technopulse. They can change it or they can create with the other names. Okay, so that is unique throughout the AWS environment. So this is the naming convention of bucket. You can see that. So using this URL, you can access your bucket. So you can see that S3 then dot EU hyphen west one. So this is S3 is the service, storage service. Then the name of the region where your bucket is lying, and Amazon AWS.com, and this is the name slash. This is the name of your bucket. So I have created suppose some bucket named as admins. And when an object file is uploaded in the bucket, and if HTTP 200 code is received, it means object has been successfully uploaded. So when it means that suppose when you access the S3 web console, obviously you will be creating one bucket, and if you are storing any file or object into that bucket, and if it was successful, suppose it's at almost 1 GB file or 5 terabyte file, so obviously it will take some time depending upon your internet also to upload in that bucket. And after the completion, if you receive that HTTP 200 code on your screen, it means that the object was successfully uploaded. And suppose the internet internet was got disconnected in between, and that that file couldn't get upload on in the bucket, and obviously it would have failed, and it won't give you HTTP 200 code. So this is very important. So as per exam view, so you can get a question like, if HTTP 200 code is received, what does it mean? So you have to tell it. You have to select the option in which it will say it means that object has been successfully uploaded. So this is a data consistency model in which we have two types of consistency models for S3. First one is read after write consistency, and second one is eventual consistency. So for read after write consistency is that it is used for puts of new objects. Read after write consistency means whenever you put any new object, please focus on this, whenever you put any new object into the bucket of S3, it will be accessible to all the end users who have the URL of that particular bucket, or who have the access to that particular bucket instantly. So they'll be able to see that particular object once that object gets uploaded in few milliseconds. So that is why consistency is maintained in that. So read after write. So you will be able to read or see that file as soon as you write into the bucket. Okay, so this is the meaning of read after write consistency. Second one is eventual consistency. Now suppose there was one file named as admins, or named as admins one something, some file. Okay, and now you overwrite. Suppose you want to overwrite that file, so the same file. Okay, now that file is global, and it's present in many availability zones. Okay, now eventual consistency means it will take, suppose you overwrite that file, it will take some time to reflect in all the availability zone. So that is why it is called as eventual consistency. Similarly, if you delete that object, it won't be deleted in a second or in 2 seconds. It will take some time, few seconds it will take, or few minutes it will take to delete that object from all the availability zones. So that is why this consistency is called as eventual consistency. So this is very important as per exam view. Okay, next one is, so S3 is a key value store, and as we have discussed that S3 is an object based, and it consists of the following things. The first one is key, that is, this is the name of the object. For example, you can keep anything. Suppose you have created a bucket with the name of fruits. Okay, and inside that you have uploaded any image of an apple. Okay, so the key value could be fruit. Okay, and the value could be apple, so the name of the apple. Okay, so that is what. Okay, or suppose you have created one file of fruits in which key value is fruits, that is name, and the value is the number of fruit. For example, in first one is apple, and the second value would be 10 apples. So that is value, the value of that particular object. Okay, so name of the object is apple, and the value of the object is 10. So we have 10 apples in our bucket. Okay, second one is metadata, that is data about data we are storing. So what kind of data you are storing? So we are storing data with like, we are storing Excel file, or we are storing image of that apple. So that is called metadata. And the fourth one is version ID. Now suppose I have uploaded a file. Okay, and now there is some update in that file. Either I can overwrite that file, or either I can create the new version of it. So suppose I created one file as admin 1.0. Now rather than overwriting that file, I'll create another file with the name of admin 1.1. So that is the next version, or the next updated one of that particular file. Third one is access control list. So access control list is mainly for deciding that which file should be accessible to which person. Now suppose um, I've created one bucket, and in that bucket I've created three buckets. Let's consider two buckets, and first bucket is for HR people, second bucket is for marketing people. So in HR bucket, obviously that should only be accessible to HR people, and the marketing bucket should only be accessible to the marketing people, or whatever the objects inside those separate buckets should be accessible to uh, HR or uh, marketing people. So um, the HR person should not be able to access the bucket or the object inside marketing bucket. Similarly, marketing people should not be able to access the file or the bucket of that of HR. Okay, so there we used ACLs. So more about S3. S3, Amazon has built S3 for 99.99% of availability. However, as based on SLA, that is service level agreement, they guarantee that their customers that they'll give 99.9% of availability. And so it means that obviously 0.1% they are not giving, because that time they'll have to some enduring maintenance and those things, or maintenance of particular regions or some data centers. They cannot make you that particular file or S3 available, so that's why they are keeping it as 99.9% of availability. The third one is it guarantees that you'll have 99.999, that is almost also known as 11 nines of durability. So on layman understanding, you can see that if your data is lost, then Amazon will be able to restore that data 11 times. So from 11 places. So it's like this. So they have almost 99.9999% of durability for S3 information. So your data will never be lost. Okay. And now we'll be discussing about S3 storage classes, then lifecycle management, versioning, encryption, and how you secure data using buckets, policies, and ACLs. These are very important topics. So these are the S3 storage classes or types. They are mainly divided into four. First one is S3 standard. So whenever you create any first buckets using S3, so in this case use S3 standard by default. So in that it is 99.99% of availability, and durability is 11 nines. That means your data is spread across 11 places, and it's the data is in S3 is spread across multiple availability zones. Okay, and the second one is S3IA, infrequent access. It means when we will be using this kind of storage type when you do not access that particular data very frequently, or um, and but it's used when data is needed very rapidly. Suppose you want your data in few seconds. Okay, so then you will use S3IA. Okay, but suppose you are not using it very, suppose every day. Okay, so then you'll use S3IA, and it's cheaper than S3 standard. Third one is S3 one zone IA. As the name suggests, in this data will only be present in one zone, and it won't be spread in multiple availability zones. Okay, so the advantage in this is that it's very cheap, but it's not good. Suppose your data is lost, then it will be permanently lost as it's giving very less durability. Okay, the final one is Glacier. So this one is mainly used for archival of data. Suppose and for example, uh, we want to use we want to store our data in at particular location, and then after some time we want to restore it. So then we use Glacier. Okay, and it's very cheap, and it's mainly of three types, like expedited, standard, and bulk retrieval rates. So it depends upon suppose you have stored some data in Glacier, and you want and some issue happened in your production. Okay, and you want to restore the data in 1 hour. Okay, then you will use expedited Glacier. Suppose you want that data between 2 to 3 hours, then you will use standard Glacier, And if you are not very eager to restore that data, and you have a lot of time to restore their data, then you can use bulk retrieval rate. So obviously expedited glacier is a bit expensive, and it reduces with standard and bulk retrieval rates. This is very cheap, and it's mainly used for archival of data. Now, S3 charges are mainly dependent on these things. First one is storage. So, how much data you are storing in S3? Obviously, for free tier, a specific limit is there. So, if you go above that limit, you'll have to give money to them. So, it's based on per gig basis, and it also depends upon requests. So, suppose you have kept some image in S3 bucket, and you have made it available to the whole world, that is whole internet, and people are accessing it or downloading it. So the number of requests for downloading that or for accessing that, the more the request, the more the S3 charges you will have to pay as you are hosting it. Okay. Third one is storage management prices. This we'll discuss later. The fourth one is data transfer pricing. So it's the S3 charges also depends upon how much data you are transferring and how much data is being transferred by S3. That is also will be charged. And transfer acceleration, it means that what is the speed of transferring the data, that also is dependent on S3 charges. Okay, now what is acceleration? It enables fast, easy, and secure transfer of data between end users and S3 buckets over the internet. So, as you can see that if suppose you want the data very fast, or it's very important data, then obviously this transfer acceleration method makes fast and easy and secure transfer of data between the bucket, S3 bucket where it's hosted, and the end users. It takes the ability of edge locations or cloud distributed networks. So cloud distribute, suppose what are edge locations? So suppose we have data center throughout the world, but some places it's so hard or it's not feasible to create data centers over there. So in that case, edge locations, these are virtual locations. These are edge locations which are created at that particular place, and how data is um, shared. That is how is used using cloud distributed networks. The third one is rather than directly uploading or downloading data to S3 bucket, users can access edge locations which are connected to S3 over fast internet link. So if you want to access your data, or if you want to store your data, you can directly access your CDNs. Okay, and the fourth point is that some places, as we have discussed earlier, that we cannot build or have data centers or availability zones. So there we use edge location. So we'll discuss this in detail later on. So these are the very important exam tips which you need to ponder on. So first one is S3 is object-based storage, as we discussed earlier, and not block-based storage. So block-based storage is used mainly for installation of operating system or other dynamic things. However, S3 is an object-based storage and only used for static things or static websites. So you can only store files of any type, but cannot install any executable or OS or database for that matter. Okay, and files can be from size 0 bytes to 5 TB of size. Unlimited storage you have, but it's not free, as the more you store, obviously the more you will have to pay. And files are stored in buckets, and S3 has a universal namespace, that is each bucket can have unique name throughout the whole Amazon's universe, and it should have unique name, and you cannot have two names with the same for the same bucket. Okay. And read after write consistency is there for puts, that is for new objects. When you're writing new objects, then read after write consistency for those. If you're overwriting those particular objects, or you're deleting that object, then eventual consistency is there for those that data. And these are the four S3 classes. First one is S3 standard. It's durable, data is immediately available, and it's frequently accessed. S3 IA, that is infrequent access is used, and when it's durability is required, immediately is required, and it should be infrequently accessed. S3 one zone, it's cheaper than infrequent access, but not highly available. So it's only available in one zone, and if your data is lost, then it will be lost forever. So it's not recommended for important data. So if you want your important data and you want it to be accessible frequently, then you'll use it in S3 standard. And if your data is important but you do not want it to be in you are not accessing it frequently, then you'll use S3 IA. And if your data is not important, then you'll use S3 one zone. Now fourth one is glacier. So when you want to store large amount of data, so then Amazon Glacier is required. Glacier is used, and it may take 3 to 5 hours of retrieval depending upon which one you have used, expedited or other ones. Okay, so this is mainly used for archival. As we discussed, that these are the five parts of an S3 object: key, value, version ID, metadata, and access control list. So before going to the exam, please read S3 frequently accessed questions and answers. Okay, so this is very important before going for an exam. So this is all for today for S3. We'll go into S3 lab in the next lecture. Thank you. Bye bye.